The other day here on YouTube, I put out a poll in the community section where I asked if I was going to be doing a more 101 kind of beginner's guide to any of the Affinity apps, which one would you most likely want to see? And Affinity Designer was the thing that most people chose, at least in the poll. But when I went into the comments section, the people who were most vocal were the ones that wanted more Affinity Publisher content. In fact, one person put it very bluntly that said, please, please, more Affinity Publisher content. Everybody seems to be doing designer content. Nobody's doing Affinity Publisher. Please do more Affinity Publisher. And to be honest, I had promised I was going to be doing this video anyway, so hey, let's get down and dirty with the basics of Affinity Publisher. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ernest Hemingway. No, my name is Dave Connery. I'm an artist designer based in Southern California, and it is a beautiful and kind of actually a little toasty day here in Southern California. I'm not going to complain about that, except for the fact that I have no sort of central air in this studio. It is balmy, to say the least, and so I think I'm going to plug in my fan. So if you hear a buzzing noise, that's what's going on. That is much better. Okay, so the Ernest Hemingway joke was that somebody had left a comment in one of my other videos, one of my much older videos, saying, hey, look, it's Ernest Hemingway. Okay, I get it. I'm old. I've got a beard. I spend a lot of time in the sea, but I couldn't write myself out of a paper bag compared to him. Instead, I'm here talking to you about an app that he wouldn't care about. Into the screen! Here we are in Affinity Publisher, and we have a super basic layout here. I'm not gonna be doing a whole lot of actual design on the page today because I think what's most important is for you to fully understand what's happening around the outside border. And specifically, we are gonna be talking about the things that are happening up top here in this toolbar, so you understand what that is, and then understanding the tools here, and then this palette arrangement over here. Now, I apologize that things might be a little bit tight on the screen. I normally would have this up on my big screen, but I'm in the studio and the big screen's in the house. I digress. What I fully anticipate, in order to keep this video at least not crazy long, is that I'm gonna have to do this in a couple of parts. So this is gonna be part one, and I don't know how many parts there will be, but we'll get into this other side of palettes and tools over here in the next one. I'm also gonna do my best to step outside of myself for a little bit and try to look at this as a complete beginner, because I have this tendency when I'm moving along to just move along, because I can move through this app pretty quickly. And if I'm doing that, you're not catching it because it's like, what? Wait, what? What'd you do there? What'd you do there? What'd you do there? Wait, go back. If you miss something, then you just step back a few seconds and then watch it again and pause it and replay it. And if you have questions, of course, at any time, feel free to go down to the comments, drop the questions, and maybe they get answered in another video, or I can answer them directly there for you in the comments. So I've got an 8.5 by 11 spread open, and again, probably not going to be using this too much, except to just show you what some of the tools do, but you can open up any type of page you want. It doesn't really matter. What does matter here are these first three icons. Now, you may not see these three icons. To my understanding, if you don't have all three apps, you won't see these. I have not actively sought out this information, but that's what I've been told. And the reason that this is important is that this allows you to jump through the different personas of the different apps without ever leaving Affinity Publisher. So if I want to just go over here to the vector brush tool and grab a crazy brush and then just start painting on that thing, yeah, I can do that within that. But if I go back over here to Publisher, you'll notice it's there, obviously, and it is fully editable. I can edit the nodes, I can move them around, but there is no brush feature in Affinity Publisher. So if you want brushes and stuff like that, you want more stylized vector access, then you're going to want to jump over here to Affinity Designer to do it. Now, if you don't have Affinity Designer yet, it's okay. If you are using a different vector app, that's okay too. It just means that you're going to have to hop out, go work over there, come back. The beauty of the Affinity tools is being able to jump back and forth through all of these things without ever leaving one app versus the other. And of course, you've also got the Affinity Photo persona. So for instance, if you wanted, like, let's say I have an image, let's pull up an image, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to grab something, bring in this guy right here, this Oculus Rift guy. And it's all cool and everything. Oh, it's cool, but I want to change it more, and I don't have a whole lot of, let's say I don't have any filters. Where are all my filters? I got no filters. It's okay. Go over here to the Affinity Photo persona right there, and just, there's your filters. You can go crazy with filters. Get all bananas with filters. Ah! I did great with filters. And then back over to Affinity Publisher. And of course, it's still fully editable. I can come back over here and add layers to this and just jump back over to Affinity Publisher and go into the layers, and you can see here, let's bring layers out over here, you can see layers are there. It's there. And if I added more to it, that functionality would be sitting there on top of that. Okay, this next panel right here, this is basically setting your defaults. So let's just drag out a box here real quick. And I've got it set like this. And this is my default. Now, I don't know why it's gray. It should really be white. I think it's something that's the standard. And I'm going to add a stroke here. Just a little bit of one so you can see what's going on. Now, the next time I draw a box, it's going to look exactly like that because those are the defaults that I have set up. As you can see, my default fill, my default stroke. It's not really default, it's just like that's the thing that I've done. But if I wanted to make sure that that was a default for every single thing that I do within the document, I would click this blue one right here, and that would send that to that would basically make that the default. I'm gonna bring out another box here. As you can see, it's looking exactly the same, but I'm gonna change the fill color to blue. I'm gonna take the stroke actually down to nothing, right? And then I go and I click this one right here, revert to defaults. It goes back to the original default because I didn't set any other default. Now, if I turn this into the new default by clicking the blue one here, I click that, then I click this one again, and I click revert to default. Well, that should change. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, maybe it's just reverting to the default. Okay, so that I had that wrong. I thought what it would do is like this is making the new default, and so every time you do something now, if I make a new box, it's gonna be, well, see, now it's making me a liar. Now it's making me a liar. There we go. See, now it's the default. It was making me a liar there. I don't use that function a lot, but yeah, so essentially the idea is, you know, if you want to make your box be, or you want to make your items, it can be anything. It could be a random shape like this, and it'll still have those kinds of things. You can revert to default, or you can apply default, and or make that the default, and it will apply that to anything you make after the fact. So the next box you make, the next odd shape you make, the next photo that you bring in, it's all going to have those as the default. And if you don't like it, you can go back and change it to default. These next three here all relate to text wrapping. And basically, if you've ever seen a magazine situation or any kind of layout where it's like you have a column of text and then you have a box that's like inset in that text, and the text kind of wraps around the box, that's what text wrap is. Let's just throw this in here real quick. I'm just going to draw a text box, and I'm going to go and insert filler text. Okay, so now I have this box, and if I just lay it on top of there, obviously you can't read it. But if I do this, and then I go and show my, oh, it's off the page. Why is it off the page? Okay, so I basically click this first one, which is show text wrap settings. I can do wrap outline, and I can also reset wrap outline. But basically, you are given, when you select the first one here, you're given these choices. None, which is what it is right now. Jump, which means it's going to jump from here down to here. It's just going to skip this whole section. Square means it's going to square off no matter what I do with it. Tight, now this actually works better if I have a circle. Let's bring on a circle. Okay, and select tight. Oops. And as you can see, it kind of wraps around. I'm going to take that away just so you can see this better. As I do this, you can see it kind of wraps around. So now inside is a little bit different. If I click here, you can see that when I bring this over here, it doesn't actually do anything. But if I send this one to back, if you look here on my layers palette over here, it's on the top of that. But if I bring this one down by clicking it here, look what happens. It puts it in the type, all the type goes within the box, and I can adjust that where its tolerance is if I want to. I don't want that. And then edge is kind of the same. I moved it out of the way, and it's like, you know, it like that way it wraps, and then it kind of touches the edge here too. And I've never in my life ever desired to use this. This seems a little weird, but you may have a reason for it, and it's there if you want it. But we're going to use the tight one here for this one. And if we go here to both sides, you can see, let's actually bring it down even more. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to drag two boxes. And so now, if I can get this one to work right, there we go. Now you can see it wraps on both sides, and that can be adjusted. You can make the adjustments based around here. Like if you want it to be tighter or looser, you do that by adjusting these here. If I want it just on the larger side, of course it didn't work that way. How's that work? Let's see how this works. I have not used this one either, but the larger slide, let's see, let's bring it all the way out here like this, and if I, that's weird. Oh, maybe maybe it works better with let's do this. We'll go square, and we'll go larger side. Let's get rid of that one. Duplicate my, I'm just gonna quickly duplicate. Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm really not sure what the difference is between larger side and smaller side. but yeah, so you have that option. And yeah, that's just what that's about. That's what these three are about. If you have an image, you want to wrap it, you want to have some sort of wrap. And again, like I said, I can go in here and I can adjust the wrap size, and let's link them all so we get a good amount, right? You can see now how it is adjusting all the way around. So if I want something super wide rather, well, that was that was way too big, Dave. 0.25. It's pretty big. Or if I want to get it super tight, let's see, 0.01. It's hellified tight. Now, if I'm putting an image in there, I don't want my type to be that close, and that's part of the reason why you want that. In fact, actually, let's bring an image in here. Let's bring an image in real quick. Bring the size down dramatically. Way more dramatically than that, Dave. Let's get rid of that. Let's move this out of the way. Let's wrap it square. Can't figure out what that is. You can see, I don't want it that tight. If I'm that tight, that looks weird. Now, I know some avant-garde magazines sometimes do that crap, but it bugs me. Don't do that. But if I take this, let's say 0.2, then it's like that. Now, sometimes you're going to have to negotiate this because it will put it'll put words in weird spaces, especially if you're getting a little too tight like that. Like, that's weird. You don't want that. So these next two are pretty simple. It is basically giving you the power to attach two things to each other. So if you have a text box here, you have an item here, and you want to make sure that they always stay together and they always stay exactly where they are together, then you may want to do this. So you click on the object, because this right here is the float with text, and this one is the inline in text. So if I click this and hit float, you can see it draws this line, and it draws that line to the beginning of it. Now I can move that around. Or at least I thought I could move it around. Can you move it around? But no matter. What does matter is that if you click on this type and try to move it around, that ball is going to stay exactly where it is. Now if I can move it around like this, and then I move it around. I guess that's what it is. It relates to, it's always going to do that. It's always going to move around. So I can move this around all I want. Now, if I wanted to do the other one, let's click that off and then go inline in text. It's going to inline that text wherever, that text is. So again, if I move it around, it's not going anywhere. Those two are attached at the head. Now this window washer here, this is just toggle preview. Basically, it's just saying, hey, I've got my situation here where I know where my borders are around my boxes. I know where my frames are. I know where my borders are. I know where my page breaks are. But if I click this, it's like, oh, that's much cleaner to look at sometimes. It's just cleaner. Let's say I bring in there. Let's say I've got all kinds of, let's go back. Let's click this. Let's see, I want a grid line here and a grid line here, and let's turn on the actual grids, and wow, that's just like, it's all over the place. And sometimes in text you can also have view, where I don't know where it is, show special characters, and view all these other things, and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's just so much going on. I can't focus. There's too much happening. You click that, and hey, that looks better. That looks great. All right, so this one right here, Show Baseline Grid Manager. This one's a little bit more advanced, and what it relates to is, let's move him out of the way for a second, and let's just duplicate this one, right? And what it relates to is, Baseline Grid is essentially establishing a grid on the page. I don't mean that grid back there. What I mean is that the document maintains a certain grid for type, and it will basically put that grid on every page or every master page, and it will have like when you put type on the page, and if you have your type aligned to baseline grid, your type will always sit on that baseline. This type is, let's see, what is this type at? This type is 12 points. Let's go here, 12 by 12.4. So let's say our baseline grid is 12.4. Every time I put text on the page, it's going to snap to that grid. And if I moved this, I don't have it set up, but if I move this even just this little bit, right? If I moved it like that much, like offline, just like that one, then what would happen is this line would actually snap to line up with the baseline grid, assuming that it was right there. So, and you can make this, right? It says here, use baseline grid if I want to. And you can see it just automatically snapped right to the baseline grid because I wasn't on the baseline grid. So if I move this up, you see it's snapping to that baseline grid. And I can associate what the baseline grid is by these 14 points here. It's actually probably should be a low. I recommend that whatever your body copy text is, whatever the leading is, meaning it's 10 points and it's a 12-point leading between that and the next line, then you're gonna want to make sure this is the same, because otherwise it could totally mess you up. So if you're gonna use that, which, you know, if you're doing advanced level stuff, advanced level magazine stuff or book stuff, I definitely recommend it, especially if you're lining up columns next to each other. I recommend it because nothing to me is more frustrating than going into a magazine or, you know, whatever, and seeing that the type is lined up like this. This drives me nuts. Drives me nuts. And maybe that's just me. It's just one of these things that's like, it screams of amateur to me. This one here is our snapping tools. Obviously, I've got snapping enabled, and you can do some pretty detailed snapping depending on what you want to snap to. That's totally up to you. So now these things, obviously, these are the in front, in back, send to back, send all the way to the back, all kinds of things like that. So if I have this in front and I don't want it in front and I want it to go all the way back, it sends it all the way back. And if I'm selecting two things, and there's actually, let's bring out a third one, right? And make him a different color. Let's go, nope, wrong, nope. Come on, different color, give me a different color. So now that guy's in front of that guy's in front of that guy, but I want them all though, but I got this and this, and let's do this. Let's move these two over in front of that. They're both, I want them both in the back. And so now they're both in the back of that. Or if I wanted to send the text all the way to the back, I could. So it's essentially, this one here is all the way to the back, all things to the, or move all the way to the back. No matter how many layers you've got, it's gonna go all the way to the back. This one is move back one. This is move forward one. And this is move all the way forward. It feels like a game of Sorry or Monopoly or something. Now this is your alignment tools. You want to align things to the left, to the center, to the right. You want to have multiple things aligned at the same time. I shouldn't have deleted that one. Let's bring out another circle. Come on, let me have a circle, please. There you go. Let's say I want to evenly distribute these three things. I want to evenly distribute them across the horizontal space. Click that. Also, you know, it's the same thing. Align to top, align to middle, align to bottom, or have them spaced vertically. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see. Let's see how this works. Let's select all. Let's align vertically. Space. Now that it did that, it's actually spatially aligned compared to their sizes. It's just a little weird because they're such different sizes. Let's make this even smaller. Let's bring him down, and then let's select them all again. Let's try that one more time. See, now it's spatially adjusted to each other. Now these three over here, they look kind of the same as these three, and essentially they're related. Let's say they're cousins. This basically means, like, if I bring anything new in, it's going to insert behind the selection, insert in front of the selection, or insert inside the selection. Again, one of those things I just don't use very often. It's probably got some functionality that I may need to look into, and I'll report back later. Some tools are here because, you know, Affinity feels like they're necessary. I just don't ever use them. Okay, now of course this line here, whatever this line is always going to equate to whatever we are working on. So obviously I'm clicking on this shape and the details change as I click through the different things. It becomes text when it's text, it becomes this when it's an object, and it also relates to whatever tool I happen to be using at the time as well. In other words, I'm not going to discuss every single aspect of every single one. I'm just going to go through these tools, and you can basically see what's going on there. If there's anything in particular that I want to share with you, then the one here at the top is the Move tool. That's the most basic. If I'm actually clicking on it, it just allows you to move things. That simple. It just allows you to move everything around the page. The one right here is the Node tool, and I don't have any nodes. Let's create a node thing. Right now I have nodes, and if I'm on my Node tool, I can move my nodes. Get your nodes out of my way. That's what the Node tool does. That's only going to work on anything that has been converted to either curves or, it's like shapes like this or whatnot. Can you do it with, let's see. I don't think you can do it with raster stuff. You can do it with maybe these. This is a picture box. Can I do it with these? Let's see. No, I cannot. I thought I could, but I cannot. I thought you might be able to build take one of these boxes, one of these picture boxes, and use the Node tool to move it around and kind of tweak it, but you cannot. Or at least not right out of the gate. Somebody's probably going to prove me wrong and say, all you got to do is click, Control Alt Delete F516 with an E, and that will make it so that you can, use the Node tool. So now these next three are all text or type related, or text or data related. They have the artistic text tool, which is essentially like if you have that, you're just drawing out regular text like that. Oh, let's get rid of those stupid characters. Text. Nope. Text. So that's just a text. That's a line of text. It's one line of text, and like I said in the last video, when I type it, it'll just keep typing in a straight line unless I hit a hard return or a soft return and break the line or whatever. It'll just keep type forever. If I want to put my type in a box like I've done here, then I need to use the text frame tool, frame text tool, right? And then this one is obviously this one here in the middle. Is our grids, our spreadsheet. No, what I'm talking. What's the graph? Why can't I remember the name? The table tool. Jeez, why can't I remember what it's called? That's a table tool, and the way it works is you drag it, and you can have as many boxes as you want. Drag it this way. Have as many columns as you want, many rows, many columns. You figure out what you want. Let's say I want a 3x3. I find my 3x3 space right there. And now if I want to expand that to fill whatever space I want to fill, I can do that. You can drop text in there, you can drop shapes in there, you can drop images in there, and that's really good if you're trying to bring in data or trying to bring in some information. You'd probably be using that a lot. Let's get rid of all this extra fluff. This is the handy dandy pen tool, just like I was doing before. If I want to drop a vector based shape, I can do that. I can do it in hard lines, I can do it in Bezier curves. And again, with the Node tool, I can move it around. Move it around and do whatever I want. These are your shape tools. You got the ellipse, you got the rectangle, and you got all these other various ones which you can use in also Affinity Designer. You can find them there. You can also find them in Affinity Photo. They are universal between the apps. And with each one, as you go through it, you can see that you can, like if I draw a star, you can see that I can change the points. I can change the details of it, the radius, the outer circle, the inner circle. I can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then even in here, if you zoom in, you can see you can play with these things here and set some weird parameters to everything. Every single one of these shapes has some sort of adjustment that you can use and adjust that to yourself. I use the arrow tool a lot because I can do all kinds of crazy stuff like here. I can do change the end side. I can change the thickness if I want. I can change the whether left it proportional to size and you make it like this or make it like this, or not. It just play around, do stuff, whatever. The offset like that. You do all kinds of crazy stuff. All kinds of crazy stuff. We're getting crazy with arrows. Picture frame rectangle tool. Essentially, if you just want to create a frame that you want it to be a certain size so that you can drop an image in there, that's what you do. If you want that to be an ellipse, that's what you do. So if I just want to drag this guy right in here, boom. I want to drag this guy right in here, boom. And of course I can readjust the size in there. And if I double click it, oh, actually, let's go back to that. I can move it around with that. I can rotate. Come on, give it. There we go. I can rotate it in there. Or if I double click, then I can move it, around like this. I can resize and play around like that. And then place image tool is no different than doing this, dragging in and bringing in an image like that. But that's not my image. But if I wanted to bring in an image from someplace else, this is, let's see, this is a cover of something that I did. I designed this thing. It's a cover for a new notebook that I'm building, or it's in the process of being approved on Amazon KDP, and I did that. I just, if I want to bring in my own images, that's the one that I bring in. Also bring in images with these two as well. Let's say I want to just bring in a frame like this, and I do place. I go up here, File, Place, or Command-Shift-M, and I find that same image. It brings it right in there, and I can readjust, to see, like whatever you want. This one here is the data merge tool. It is something that I hope I never have to use. It is a pretty advanced tool, and if you're using this tool, then you aren't watching this video. If you're at the level that you're using the data merge tool, then this whole video is moot to you. But unless you're just here for the entertainment value, which I guess I could understand that. But the data merge tool is essentially the ability to have like a set amount of data offline or off the product, right? And be able to bring that information in. So let's say you're building a catalog and you want to make sure that all the information is universally the same. It's already been vetted, it's already been edited, it's already been done, and you don't want to like copy and paste it and bring it into your document every single time. You just want to be able to set certain parameters so that when you drop in a box that has those parameters listed, it automatically populates that data from the information that it's pulling from somewhere else. You're building catalogs, you've got certain information that you just want to make sure it's universal, then that's perfect for that. And if you're at that level of design, then there's videos here to tell you more about that. I will link to them right there. Vector crop tool is pretty simple. If I have a vector and I want to cut off part of the side there, now I could do that with the tools of that vector shape itself, but let's just say I wanted to make it more unique than what the vector tools normally operate. Let's say I want to just, do some weird kind of, shape like that I'm not going to be able to get unless I do like basically trimming up and doing compound paths and tools and all that. I don't want to do that. I just want to be able to trim this one up like that. I can do that with the vector crop tool. Fill tool is pretty simple. It's just you want to fill with gradients. Let's say I select this and I want to just fill with a gradient. I can just click and drag the gradient. I can double click this and change my color like that. Double click this node here and change my color. If I want to add a node to it, I can add a node and make some adjustments. So I want to bring that and make that more of a bluish purple in there. And I want to make that one a little bit more lighter. Okay. I can do all kinds of crazy stuff with that. And of course you've got your types of fill up here. I can go fill or stroke. I can do linear, solid, elliptical. You can see, you saw that it moved just like that. And radial or comical or even bitmap. If I want to bring in a bitmap image, let's bring that image in again. You can see, like, whoa, look at that. Look at that. So it isn't just fill of color, it's fill with a variety of different things, mostly color. Transparency tool is essentially, kind of the same. It's a gradient, but it gives it a transparent gradient. So now it's this color to transparent. And so just to make that, to send that point home, you can see it's transparent over type. Color picker tool, let's bring another image in again. Oops, didn't want to do that. Color picker, I just want to hey, I really like the yellow on this Cookie Monster hamburger thing. It's going to bring that yellow in, and it's also going to change the dynamics of that. But no, that's not what I want. I want to go. Let's go back. Let's say I want to go that pink. And it's going to apply that all to everything. Or if I wanted to, let's go back. Let's select that one, and I want to use the color pickle tool. Pickle. Why do I keep calling it that? Color picker tool. I'm selected here. Oops. And I come in here and I select that, and it's going to change that color. Do it again. Change that color. Whoa, what? I must have hit the wrong one. There we go. View hand tool, essentially moving the page everywhere. It's no different to me than, you know, being able to use it. I've got a Magic Mouse, and so it allows me to swoosh around all over the place like that. It's the same thing as the hand tool. And the magnifier, of course. These are kind of universal through pretty much every app. Now let's talk about these up here. Pages. Master pages and pages. Master pages are essentially like templates for your document. And so if you want to make sure that there are certain things that end up on every single page, then you want them to go on to that master page. So a perfect example would be, like, say you have little headers that go at the top. Like you're designing a magazine, there's little headers that go at the top. Or if you're designing books or whatever and you need page numbers will go in there. If you want to make sure, even as simple as just having a certain alignment of grid pattern or, you know, guides, then you have that on the master page, and every time you apply that to a page, then they're always there. And you may want to have different ones for different sections, so you'll have different master pages. And if you go even more super detailed in here, you can go in here and adjust the columns, how many columns on a page, how many grids on a page, you know, maybe what certain items might be, like what elements might be on a page or whatnot. So there are all kinds of different things, and you just apply them to a master page. And then as you work and you want to adjust a particular page to a master, when you right click and you go apply master, or you would go up here and apply master in, you know, the document or whatever. So it's like basically like, hey, if you want to apply, you want things that are universal and you want to apply it to this one, then you just bring and drag it. You can also just drag it like that, drag it on top of that. You want to add new master, you click there. You want to duplicate a selected master, you click there. You want to get rid of a master you don't like, you click there. In the pages section, if you want to add more pages, you can click that one right there. You can duplicate a page by doing that again, and of course deleting as well. This one is also kind of interesting if you want to manage like certain sections. Like let's say you're managing an entire magazine in this one document. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. If you wanted to, you could, and you could just, you know, click this and you would have like, okay, let's say the first 10 pages are all the basic information, like the editorial, the masthead, you know, like some, you know, basic information that goes into every single magazine. That's section 1. And then you have your departments, and that's section 2. And then you have your features, and that's section 3. And so you have that all separated like that, if that's what you want to do. Assets, and I don't have any, but assets are basically things that, you know, if you're an Adobe user, assets are like the library. If I have elements that I want to bring in on a regular basis, and it could be as simple as, you know, certain shapes that I use, maybe logo bugs that I use, or images that I use, or maybe filters that I've applied, or not filters, but styles that I've applied, or things that have styles to them, and I want to use that thing on a regular basis, then all of that would go into your assets. The stock, as you've seen, is where we can pull different images from Unsplash, Pexels, and Pixabay. You come in here and you type in, let's say, tiger. Not D-tiger, tiger. And you get all kinds of tigers. Pexels has tigers, and Pixabay has tigers. And now pre-flight, this is, again, this is a little bit more advanced, but if you are the type of designer that is sending your stuff out for print, and you want to make sure you have all your I's dotted, your T's crossed, your colors right, you're switched everything from RGB to CMYK, this is where you're going to go and have all of your information. Now, I don't have anything. Let's say I just check now. I don't have any issues, but if I had any issues, like say, let's say type was running over. Here's a perfect example. Let's see. Do I have that like that? Let's see. No, I'm actually kind of confused at why I didn't do that. But if I had type that was like not, well, maybe it's because it's not. Never mind. Don't worry about that. But what happens, like, if you, let's say your box here had cropped some of your text, like it got moved somehow, and the baseline shift made it push off, and it couldn't see it. A lot of times it'll end up like red. And I think of the reason that it's not doing it is because this is filler text, and it's just kind of going to flow. So if you can see this, like now, like I moved this, I expanded that text, and you can see there's this little thing right here that's basically saying, hey, you've got text that's not being shown, and you can see right here, overflowing text frame. Now I could do this a couple of ways. I could just move the text frame until it gets to a point where it disappears. You see that disappear like that. Or I could also click that and drag another box, and it would bring out, and those things are connected. And it will tell you here, like it'll give you information about like images. Sometimes it'll give you information about like fonts are missing, images are missing. It'll tell you all that information so that you have an idea of like, oh my gosh, I've got to do some stuff before I send this out to the printer. So there you have it. That is Affinity Publisher Basics Part 1. I don't know when there's going to be a Part 2, but there will be a Part 2 sometime. And when I do, I'll put a link to it here, hopefully somewhere, or you'll just have to go search for it down below. And here's the thing. If you want to know about all of this other stuff and you can't wait for part 2, I have done other videos on this topic. I have done videos on characters and paragraph styles and text styles. I've done all that. I've done videos on color and how this works. I've done videos on all of this stuff. So if you want to jump into those things, I'll put links to those in the description. I also encourage you to go back to, like, say, watch the last video I did where I built that flyer so that you guys can have a better understanding of what I did while I was building it. So that you can say like, oh, okay, I see what he did here now. I see what tool he was using. I see how he got through that. Not everything's gonna be covered, but there will be more better understanding of what's happening. And if you need information about any of that, make sure you go down to the comments and ask, because I won't know what to do if you guys aren't telling me. While you're headed down there, make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Make sure you share this video with any appropriate homies. And, if you're into it, you can subscribe. I've since learned that, maybe I shouldn't be asking for the subscribers all the time, because really that affects my numbers to a certain degree. Like, it affects my views if people subscribe, but they don't come back. If you don't feel like you're going to come back and hang out and watch the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one, you don't have to subscribe, it's cool. But do like the video, because that'll help, and share it with somebody, because that'll help. Oh, and if you do subscribe, you're awesome. Not that people that don't subscribe are not awesome, but I love my subscribers. And there's been a lot of you recently, so if you're new here watching this one, after you've subscribed to me, hi! Thanks for hanging out. Oh, one last thing before I go. I have decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building a bunch of magazine templates in Affinity Publisher, so that anybody who wants to use templates for, let's say, their own magazine project, their own zine project, their own book project, or just to have so that they can use as page templates for different things that they're building, I'm going to be creating all of these templates over time and then providing them for, a small fee for people to download. And as we go through this, you'll see some of it in action, and then, of course, when they're available, I'll let you know. They will be available on my website. If you haven't seen my website, it's down there in the description as well. A bunch of other links in there if you want to follow me on Instagram. Oh man, there's too many calls to action, Dave. I'm gonna get out. Guys, remember, be good today, be even better tomorrow. See ya.